What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Logician Tim Learns with me, your host, Logician Tim. This is where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a more informed gaming newbie. Yeah, we'll go with that. What's going on, everybody? Yeah, we're back for another week of RPG deep dives. I apologize in advance. I woke up with a sore throat this morning and I'm trying to lose my voice. I'm not trying to, but it's trying to leave me. And so we're going to fight through that one. And hopefully it holds on for the rest of the week. So, yeah, we are going to be looking at this Conan RPG. Now, this is published by Modiphius Entertainment. As you know, they're one of my very favorite publishers out there, doing like Tales from a Loop and Coriolis and a bunch of other ones. Everything I've seen from them so far, I've really, really enjoyed it. So I was excited when Scott Rumps told me about this one and said he had a copy of it. And I was like, yes, I want to take a look at it. Absolutely. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be just giving some first impressions. Now, this stream is going to be a little bit shorter because that's just how it was. I do them how they are. I don't length them out or make them shorter. It is what it is. Tomorrow's stream is going to be a lot longer with the character creation section because that's just a longer chapter. So I'll be getting into that. If you don't mind, go ahead and share the stream for me. Hit that like button if you don't mind. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That always helps me out. I just love seeing new faces around here. So, yeah. And if you have any questions, throw them down in the comments. Say hi. Say anything. Like Adam just said, Conan is cool. And I agree. Conan is pretty cool. But you know what? I don't know very much about Conan. Like, I've seen the, 1988 movie, Conan with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that was a long time ago. So I really don't have a huge following a backstory on Conan. So I like doing those. When I don't know them and other people love it, they can kind of fill me in and let me know some of the backstory and where things came from. So that's what we're going to be kind of doing with this one. And I know it's super famous and I just never was exposed to it for whatever reason. So let's take a look. Actually, first, before we do this, I wanted to go into just a little bit of history because I did look it up, right? Of course I've heard of Conan but I want to know a little bit about, when was it started and who wrote it and those kind of things. So I did do a little bit of a search here, and also the book told me a little bit too. So I want to give a little bit of history on Conan, the Barbarian. He's also known as Conan the Cimmerian with a C, Cimmerian, I guess. And he was originally created by Robert E. Howard in 1932 when he published a series of fantasy stories in a magazine called The Weird Tales, which, man, that sounds like an awesome. I wish I could get a hold of Weird Tales. I bet it's some awesome stuff in there. What's interesting is that Robert Howard was actually turned down for this story called By the Axe I Rule, or By This Axe I Rule. And so he ended up rewriting it, and he traded out the main character named Crom for Conan. And he called it The Phoenix on the Sword. And so they snatched it up. They loved it. And so this was kind of like the first time that Conan appeared. It was in 1932, guys. Nobody around here was around back then. Nobody watching this stream anyway. What was cool was the editor actually told Robert to write an essay describing the world or the age of, what do they call it? Hyborian age, I guess is what they call it. Hyborian. I'm going to mispronounce some of these things. Hyborian age. So they wanted to write this essay just kind of describing the Hyborian age and in which this story took place of Conan. And so Robert did. And then he later ended up using this essay, his own essay, as a guide to write the rest of these Conan stories. So this kind of helped his thoughts get organized. And I really liked that. He would later go on to write 21 stories, and 17 of those would be published. Now, after Robert Howard's death, the copyright of Conan kind of bounced around, and they eventually just went out of print. And it wasn't until the year 2000 that a lot of his unpublished work was published by this British publisher in a 2-volume set. So it kind of lay dormant for a long time. People did some things where they took some of his poetry and some of the outlines that he had and turned those into stories, kind of finished them and things like that. But a lot of his unpublished work was never published before until the year 2000, not that long ago, for some stories that were written back in the 1930s. So yeah, I just want to kind of give us a little bit of background there because I think it's important that we know kind of where these stories began, right? And Conan is very, very popular, very famous. And I had no clue that the story was written back in 1932. How cool is that? So yeah, of course, it's been made into video games and all types of books and games and all types of cool stuff. And I was really excited to see Modiphius publishing this one because it sounds like they did some really cool stuff in here. So let's kind of talk about that real quick. Now, the Conan RPG actually first started off as, let me switch my screen, first started off as a Kickstarter. And when was this? Back in February, and I got to check my notes. Back in February, when was that? February 2016, they ended up doing £436,000, which is like over $500,000, right? 4,352 backers. It looked pretty neat. Let me go to the campaign here and I'll show you kind of just what it kind of basically looked like. Again, this is what, 2 or 3 years ago that this came out. Pretty cool looking Kickstarter. They did very, very well, of course. Modiphius seems to be very successful in a lot of the things that they did. Thank you, Adam. I'll get it out. My brain's just gone today, guys. On the Misfits Tabletop Facebook group, Adam said, "You said Hiboyan correctly." Yay! I'm getting it right. Thank you. Always correct me because I'm going to mess some of this stuff up. And if you know the correct pronunciation, that helps me from saying it wrong, like for the whole week, right? So you can see they had a bunch of stretch goals, a bunch of add-ons, a whole bunch of cool stuff for you. These specialty dice look really cool too. Has some of these tokens that we're going to be talking about today, some maps, the GM screen, all types of cool stuff. So yeah, you could get it. It was originally on this Kickstarter, did very, very well. Then now you can find it. Where can you find it now, Tim? Well, let me tell you. You can go to modiphius.net, or if you just search for Conan RPG, this is going to be one of the first sites that come up. And they had the book right here. The core book is $46.99, and they have the starter bundle for $93. The PDF is $27. I think I found it on Drive-Thru RPG for $24. So if you just want the PDF, it's going to be that. And they have, these different players' guides and stuff like that for you as well, and the different supplements. So this looks pretty cool here. This core book, Conqueror's Edition. Yeah, that looks pretty sharp. $131, but looks pretty neat. Now, I did find this on Amazon for just a little bit cheaper for $40.63. And it is a Amazon Prime, which means you get free delivery if you're an Amazon Prime member. So there you go. So for $40, you can have this RPG. Now, the book itself, as you can see, it's 8.5 by 11, full size book. It's not one of those little scrawny pamphlet size ones. Full book. It's 410 pages. 410 pages. Okay. So if you break that out, $40 divided by 410 pages, that comes out to just 0.097. So just under 10 cents per page, which is one of the cheapest ones I've seen per page that we've done. So that's kind of neat. Cheapest per page. I wouldn't have thought that. Definitely not by looking at it. But yeah, let's crack open the book real quick. And let me show you the back art real quick too. Just cool stuff. There's something about the book. It just has this like nice finish on it. It looks very square. I know that sounds weird, but it's not. Some of the ones are kind of bent a little bit. This one just seems very square and very well made compared to a lot of the books that I've had shipped to me before. So kudos on the shipping. But yeah, cracking into the book. Now, one of the first things I notice as you look at it on screen here, especially as I kind of move it and you can see the light reflecting off of it, is the matte finish on the paper. And the ink has just the slightest amount of shine to it, almost like a satin, very light satin. But the paper itself is matte. And this is going to make for, make reading a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable than those crazy shiny pages and shiny paper that we've seen in other RPGs where I'm just constantly, fighting glare and all that kind of stuff. This one does not have that. This one has that nice matte finish, making reading a whole lot easier. And I'm so happy that people are doing that. Now, the font itself looks a little bit smaller than most of the books that I've been reading so far. I mean, my eyes are pretty bad, but I think I'll be able to get through it okay. But it does kind of look, it makes the content look very thick. It makes it look very word heavy when you're just kind of glancing through it. It just looks very word heavy with these kind of smaller fonts. And it looks a little bit intimidating, to be honest. but I'm not scared. But it is a little bit intimidating, just kind of at first glance. The artwork, of course, is insane. Let me flip to a couple of these, because the artwork is just absolutely incredible. They have some full page stuff in here. Look at that. They have some full page stuff in here. They have some 2-page spreads. And just really, each one that I've seen so far has been outstanding. I mean, the color, the composition, they just look absolutely incredible. Yeah, Jay says he likes the matte finish. Yeah, me too. I mean, the artwork looks slightly better on glossy pages, but I'll take the trade-off to get the matte finish. I just think it's so much better. I mean, you can see here, I mean, this guy, it's like they have the aperture set. If you're familiar with photography, the aperture set on this guy in the middle, and this guy here is blurry because he's up closer. This guy's kind of blurry because he's pushed back, but it doesn't really look like a 3D render. So I don't know. It looks really neat. So obviously probably some Photoshop effects or something like that after they did it. Let's see if I can find you one of those 2-page spreads, because those are really neat. I know there was one up here, like 1 page, 120 or something like that. Yeah, here you go. Like epic spreads. And so there's a handful of these 2-page spreads in the book. I just think that's awesome. Because, I mean, the artwork is absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. Some of the best I've ever seen. I mean, right up there. I mean, really close to Genesis level on the fantasy side of things. And then they have this cool map in front for you. On the back, some more badass artwork. Looks really good. I think that's about it. Let's switch into the, let's crack open the book a little bit more here. I have a big credits page, a nice table of contents. They're really broken down nicely. So if you're looking for something specific, you can find it right there. I like that. And then they kind of start us off with this forward that is done by, there's one on each page here. This one on this side is by Jason Durrell, who is the line developer. And then Jeffrey Shanks on this page was one of the writers. And each one of them wrote a page for the forward for the book, just kind of describing, I don't know, their long history with Conan. Both of them have this long history and had them from a long time ago. And dating back into the 1970s when they were just kids is when they picked it up. So it's really, really neat. Adam over there on Misfits of Tabletop and Facebook says, quality pulp fiction and quality pulp used to make the pages of the high quality pulp fiction made of pulp. Hey, all right. Yeah, I got it. That's why it's called pulp fiction, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Thanks for that. Yeah. The tongue twister for sure. But yeah, it was kind of neat to see that these guys had this long history of Conan, dating back from the 1970s when they were little kids picking up comic books and so on. And then years later, 40 years later or whatever, the first publication they get to be a part of this Conan RPG game. Really, really neat. And it's just cool to follow how those first impressions kind of led them to eventually create games for their favorite character, Conan. So really cool stuff. I kind of like the way that they added that in there for us. Then they gave us a little bit of rundown, some more history about Robert Howard, the writer, and kind of how how he began and the stories began and stuff like that. It was really short. And then it kind of gets into this getting started page. And they start off kind of telling us about the type of characters that you can play. They talk about anything from barbarians. They have list a whole bunch. Barbarians, thieves, mercenaries, pirates, brigands, wanderers, adventurers, scouts, nobles, scholars, minstrels, soldiers, merchants, priests, and even sorcerers. And those are just some of the types of things that you can play in Conan. And they tell us that the world where all this takes place is called the Hyborian Age, like we talked about it earlier. And they said this is a place of exotic wonder that is filled with lost cities and haunted ruins where you can expect fierce combat and loathsome horror. So yeah, sounds like a really crazy place. So I can't wait to dive into the world a little bit more. And they say that the central conflict of this age is between the civilized world and that of barbarism, right? So barbarians, right? They say the civilizations have kind of fallen and risen and fallen time and time again, and they have these power-hungry kings and queens that kind of fight each other, and terrible curses and ancient horrors kind of lay in wait for those that explore these forgotten places out there too. So you kind of have this civilized world, this civilian world. Then you have these ruins, and all these weird places to go explore with all these kind of weird horrors and stuff as well. So it kind of sounds neat. And they say, so this is the world basically that your character is being thrown into. Let me switch this over. Yeah, this is the world that your character is being thrown into. And they say some of your characters are going to be in search of adventure or glory or vengeance or wanderlust. And it says in time, some of these characters may become kings or queens by their own hands, but those fates have yet to be made. So you have to play the game to find out how far you're going to go. Can you make that big a name for yourself? Can you get that revenge that you've been seeking out your whole life? Can you make yourself a king or a queen? Yeah, you got to play the game. So yeah, cool stuff. It's kind of a nice little thing here. Then they kind of start us off with, new to RPGs. And I really, really like this. I know a lot of people say it's a waste of space, or, I've been playing for 30 years. I don't need this, but it's really, really important to me, for those new people that join, like me, I'll get it out, that don't play a lot of RPGs, that are just getting into the hobby and maybe never, they just bought the book because they like Conan. They never played an RPG before. They don't even know really what it is. They've heard of it, but they don't know what it is. And I think it's a nice little quick description to kind of telling them what this game is always helpful. It is. And that kind of tells just a little bit, about what a GM is and what the players can expect. Not a lot of detail, just a very, very quick introduction. And so I really dig it when games do that. Then they kind of go into what will you need to play the game. And they tell us just a little bit about the types of things you're going to need. Of course, pen and paper, because you're going to be, scratching off your hit points and whatever, making notes and those type of things. So paper and a pencil is always great. And then dice. They say Conan uses D6 as well as D20s. Okay, so you're going to need D6 dice and D20 dice. And you're going to need a bunch of each. All right. They say you're going to need at least 2 D20s per person and 2 more for the GM. But they say that you can use up to 6 D20s at a time. So make sure you have a bunch for your game. So go ahead and pick up, maybe 6 D20s and, at least a dozen D6s, because they say the same kind of goes for D6s. They recommend having at least 12 of them, 12 D6s for your game. They say most of the time you're going to be rolling between 3 and 6 D6s, and the GM is going to be rolling sometimes a dozen or more, I guess, because he's controlling all the bad guys and stuff like that. So, pick up a lot of D20s and a lot of D6s. Go ahead, pull all those ones out from the back of your the drawers and things like that, and you will finally get to use them in this game. So, kind of neat. I haven't done a 2 D20 system yet. I think this is my very first one to dive into, so I'm kind of curious to see how that works out. I get to learn a little bit. So, let me see what else they have. They do have custom dice, like I said before, and you can see them on this page. It's hard to see the detail, but they look really, really cool. They have this cool design around the numbers that looks awesome. I'd like to have a set, honestly. So you can get a set of custom dice from Modifius.net as well. Now you're also going to need 3 types of what they call counters. They can be either tokens or beads, chits, whatever, right? And you're going to need at least 5 per player. And these are going to track things like what's called your momentum points, your fortune points, and also the GM's doom pool, stuff that we don't know what it is yet, right? If you haven't played. And so they're going to be telling us about that later. So basically you're going to be using these type of markers. They say that poker chips work very well. So as long as they're different colors, so you can tell, okay, this is my momentum points and this is my fortune points, that's fine. So, if you got some old poker chips laying around, or, pennies and nickels or something like that would be fine. Just have some different colors going for it. And that's about all you need. And then the book just literally jumps right into character creation. So there just wasn't a lot to go over before we get into the character creation. So I wasn't cutting you short, even though my throat is kind of hurting me today. I'm not cutting you short. This is exactly everything that they had and that they included. And that's what I go over for you all. So normally, like I said, I like to have a little bit of world at the beginning. I think they're kind of assuming that you know who and what Conan is and what the world is for the most part when you buy this book. I don't, know exactly who it is or what the world is like. So for me, I just like to have a little bit of, I don't know, give me like 2, 3, 4 pages of world right at the beginning so that I know what I'm going to be giving up all of this time and energy for. But most people are going to be like that. Most buyers are going to know what the hell Conan is and are going to be huge fans of it and are going to know all about the world and everything. But some of them won't, like me. So there you have it. But that's about it. Tomorrow, like I said, we're going to be diving into the character creation section. And like I said, it's quite a large section. And I'm looking forward to learning, kind of all about how to create a character in Conan. And so hopefully as I wake up, and like I said, it's a pretty thick chapter. And so I'm going to be, oh, look at that. That's awesome. Going to be breaking that down for you all. And that is really cool looking. So I'll be breaking down the character creation section for you tomorrow in Conan, and we'll learn how to make a character, you guys. So yeah, hopefully my voice holds out. And as I wake up, hopefully my throat won't be hurting as bad. It's probably allergies or something. It's just the time of year, right? All right, that's it for me tonight. I appreciate you tuning in. If you have any comments or questions, go ahead and throw them down in chat. Or if you're watching this later, just put it down in the comment section. I always get notified. I love getting comments, so I appreciate it. And yeah, we will see you all on tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Bye.